So in this video, we're going to be talking about the climate bubble theory. I wanted to kind of give you guys an actual real world application of motherism and how it could be applied to mitigate some of the effects of climate collapse that we're now experiencing. So if we go back to Leviticus 18 verses 28, it talked about how the land is sacred and how it will vomit you out if we continue to defile the land. So, what that really helps us to understand is that the creator of intelligent design, that they have, whomever you pray to, whoever you believe that to be, that they have embedded a degree of balance, right? From a Taoist perspective, that there is a degree of balance that we need to begin to honor as it pertains to the planet, as it pertains to the environment, and as it pertains to the continuation of human beings and life here on Earth. A stable climate is important for us to begin to maintain and sustain life here on Earth. And unfortunately, we are living in a new epoch of time called the Anthropocene, where major shifts in the climate are caused by human driven changes. So, I want to kind of describe a little bit more in detail the climate bubble theory. So, imagine there's this big bubble, right, around the earth, around the entire globe. Okay? And as we begin to burn as we begin to burn fossil fuels, they release an excessive amount of CO2 into our atmosphere. And so, as it does that, it creates this film, right? This smog, this film on the outside of this bubble around the earth. And what it's doing is it's trapping the heat. So when the sun shines on the earth, it penetrates through the bubble, and then the smog, the film that's kind of caught on the bubble, traps heat, and then the bubble begins to expand like a balloon. And this expansion can then be measured by the increase in global temperatures. Now, the fear is that if we continue down this path, that the bubble can expand so much that it pops. And if the bubble pops, then the climate will be irreversible. And going back to the Gaia theory, we would then enter into a new state of weather patterns that may ultimately be inhospitable to human life and the way that we live our lives today. Now, some critics may argue things like, well, the climate is fine. I get up and I go to work every day. The world seems normal to me. And I would say that the reason why that is because this expansion is exponential growth. That it starts out really gradual at first, but by the time it catches up to us, by the time we begin to feel the effects of climate change or climate collapse rather, that by that time it'll then be too late. What the world could look like post pop, nobody knows for sure, but there are some very dire consequences to what the world could ultimately look like. It is stated that all these systems that keep the climate in place will begin to shut down. That's the jet streams, that is the ocean currents, the food chain, and it could enter us into a sixth mass extinction, which is already beginning to happen. The good news is that it's not too late to fix the climate. That all we would have to do is begin to mitigate the effects of climate change with a green leap forward. So, if you think about the Anthropocene and how we are in this new era of this new epoch of time, right? That what you would say is that we are on a train, right? That we're riding on a train that is just outdated. And so I don't want to really say that it's a Green New Deal, more so a green leap forward. That there are just some systems within society that need to be updated in order for us to live better, and live more healthier lives within to live a life that is more compatible with the Anthropocene. So, with motherism, I believe that we can begin to not only stabilize the climate, but we can then redevelop society with regeneration, with regenerative efforts, reforestation, reurbanization, and we can then focus on living well, especially now that we know that consciousness is about balance and wholeness, and how we, if we ultimately begin to live within an ecosystem and create an ecosystem, we could then replenish, biodiversity and just focus on living well. I also think that it's hard for people to imagine a world, post capitalism, because we're living within late stage capitalism. And it's kind of hard for people to imagine what a world like that could look like. But understanding how we are the third generation, how we are the millennial generation, that ultimately that is our future. And we have to begin to think about some ways of mitigating those effects of climate change so that way we could focus on having a future.